Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Garodnick, Chair of the City Planning Commission and Director of the Department of City Planning. I want to welcome you to today's meeting. We have some tech issues in the hearing room here at 120 Broadway. A slight echo, and of course, for the regular viewers of the City Planning Commission on YouTube, you will notice, and I know you're out there, you will notice that we're coming at you in a slightly different format. We will proceed as normal, but bear with us for any tech issues. But we are going to begin today's agenda with over a dozen votes on both citywide proposals and individual projects located in all 5 boroughs. We'll start with the 2 significant citywide initiatives from the Department of City Planning: the gaming facility text amendment, which create a process of the zoning resolution to facilitate up to 3 gaming facilities as a permitted use in select commercial manufacturing districts. However, it is also worth my reiterating that this application here would not immediately allow the development of casinos in New York City. Instead, it would allow a gaming facility licensed by the state and chosen through a state-defined siting process to be developed without potential zoning conflicts. In this state process, each application for a casino must be approved by a community advisory committee, which includes representatives from the mayor, governor, borough president, local council member, state senator, state assembly. The gaming facility text amendment is a way to consider casino regulations at the city level and create a level playing field with other downstate applications without needlessly duplicating the state process. The next citywide initiative, Green Fast Track, would streamline our environmental review process for small and medium-sized climate-friendly housing projects. This change would address both our environmental and housing crises by speeding up development and cutting costs for sustainable housing projects. I'll have more to say on this proposal during. Moving to site-specific projects today, we will vote on a Department of Housing Preservation and Development project known as Melrose Concourse. These 3 Bronx buildings, Claremont and Morrisania, would create over 70 income-restricted homes in total, including for seniors and the formerly homeless. We will also vote on a zoning lot subdivision into 7 zoning lots at 3111 Henry Hudson Parkway in Spuyten Duyvil, the Bronx. Moving to Brooklyn, we'll vote on a job-generating development for 41 Richard Street in Red Hook. That would include a mixture of light manufacturing, office space, and ground floor retail. Located near Coffee Park and a New York City ferry terminal, this project is expected to create nearly 150 jobs if approved. Switching from commercial to residential, we'll next vote on 2 100% income-restricted buildings at 281 311 Marcus Garvey Boulevard in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. This project looks to create 150 homes and publicly accessible open space and would be close to multiple bus lines and Herbert Von King Park. Next, we have another Bed-Stuy housing proposal at 1289 Atlantic Avenue. This 100% income-restricted building would create over 110 homes located adjacent to the Nostrand Avenue Long Island Railroad Station and a short walk from the A&C subway stops and B44 bus. This great example of transit-oriented development would also contain ground floor retail and community facility space. Our last Brooklyn vote for today is on 817 Avenue H in Midwood. This building would include over 40 homes, a quarter of them income restricted, along with community facility space, and would be 2 blocks from the B68 bus stop and 6 blocks from the Q Trains Avenue H station. Moving to Manhattan, the Commission will vote on the disposition of a small city-owned property formerly used by the Department of Sanitation at 7 North Moore Street, Tribeca. From there, we're heading uptown to vote on a zoning text amendment to allow the building at 1521 West 124th Street in Harlem to waive its parking requirements. This transit-oriented development across the street from Marcus Garvey Park would include 33 homes and be close to Metro North, the 1 and 2 subway lines, and over a half dozen bus lines. I will note that we are proposing to lift this type of onerous parking mandate through our City of Yes for Housing Opportunity proposal. And if we had done so, This application could have saved significant time and money and created this much needed housing for New Yorkers sooner and more affordable. In Queens, we will vote on another disposition of a city-owned property formerly used by the Department of Sanitation at 9722 Crestgill Place in Jamaica, followed by a vote on a commercial overlay at 8001 Broadway in Elmhurst to bring all commercial uses in this two-story building into compliance with existing zoning. Our final two votes for today are on Staten Island. The first would allow the development of two single-family homes at 177 and 183 Hillside Avenue in Grimes Hill, and the second would allow alterations as well as second-story and attic additions for a home located at 97 Westminster Court in Toad Hill. On to our public hearings. First up, the public is invited to testify on Department of Finance and Department of Citywide Administrative Services proposal to acquire space for active storage and transportation of records and repair and refurbishment of furniture at 850 3rd Avenue in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. The commission will close with a public hearing on an application from the Department of Transportation for a major concession in Times Square, which would allow the city, through the Times Square Alliance, to expand concessions from the existing bow tie further north and south along Broadway. Because the concession area is above a certain threshold of square footage, the application must go through this public review. So, with that by way of introduction, welcome to everybody who's here with us. Madam Secretary, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning. This is a City Planning Commission public meeting held remotely through the NYC Engage portal and in person in the CPC hearing room, 120 Broadway, Lower Concourse. Today is Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. I will now call the roll. Chair Garodnick.
Here.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Present.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Here.
Commissioner Crowell.
Present.
Commissioner Doak.
Here at 124.
Commissioner.
Here.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Here.
Commissioner Kamani.
Here.
Commissioner Martins.
Here.
Commissioner Osorio.
Here.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the public meeting of Wednesday, March 6, 2024.
Excellent. Thank you. On the minutes, I make a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, March 6th. It's been seconded by Commissioner Marine. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes are approved.
Scheduling, calendar numbers 1 through 3. We have resolutions for adoption scheduling Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024 for a public hearing to be held in person in the CPC hearing room, 120 Broadway, and remotely through the NYC Engage portal.
Great. On the resolutions, I make a motion to approve. It's been seconded by the Vice Chairman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the resolution is adopted.
Okay, the next part of the calendar is the report section on page 6. Citywide, calendar number 4, gaming facility text amendment, N240179ZRY. In the matter of an application for a zoning text amendment concerning the gaming facility text amendment for a favorable report as modified on calendar number 4, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
I'm going to vote aye on this, but I really would like to commend the staff for adding the new clause that there's a drop dead date, after which, even if the applications have not all been used or approved, that there would be a different process and a different procedure that would have to be adopted. I would also like to add that I would hope that as the staff is working with the CACs, they would come back to the commission in a public session to report on the work that they've been doing and what they've been seeing. And with that, I vote aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes, I'd like to associate myself with the remarks of Commissioner Benjamin, and I too vote yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes, and noting the remarks of Commissioner Benjamin.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
I'm voting no.
I'm voting no.
We'll just keep it muted. We'll keep it muted.
I'm sorry, it's not funny. Okay, so I'm voting no. This is a vote to allow a fast track for casinos to be built. It allows casinos to bypass the city land use review process, and obviously supporters argue that it's duplicative, and would be, it has been historically onerous for casinos. I disagree. Not about the onerous part, but that this is not a particular type of proposal that we should be fast tracking. I don't particularly think that casinos, we have a lot of proposals that come through city planning commissions, and some of them we have no people who come to testify, and some of them we have throngs of people who come to testify. Casinos are going to be the type of proposals where a lot of people will want community input. So for me, I think that it is not beneficial to limit any type of community input by thereby limiting the review process. I also just want to know, there was in particular for casinos, there was a study by the Richmond Federal Reserve. It's not New York City, but it was one of the few studies that was done that found that, and I'm going to quote here, despite tax revenues being a major motivator for state legalization of casinos, there is little evidence that they boost state taxes. We also find that the job gains from casino development are limited to those in lower density areas that lack nearby casinos. So I'm pointing that out because obviously a big motivator for fast tracking it is what casinos will potentially bring to a city and to a neighborhood. And I think that it's important that we keep in mind that there have been studies that show the limitations of what we think that casinos will bring. So I'm voting no.
Commissioner Kermani.
I'm voting yes and aligning myself with Commissioner Benjamin's comment, and
Commissioner Metten.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
I'm respectfully voting no. In doing so, I want to acknowledge the work of the department to maximize economic development opportunities for all workers, and also maximizing the efficiency of the review process. But as was said earlier by Commissioner Goodrich, given how complex and controversial these proposals can be, I'm concerned with limiting the technical review of the City Planning Commission and any opportunities for public engagement in any way. In addition, I respectfully disagree with the proposal to allow these uses in manufacturing districts.
Commissioner Raffershad.
I would like to align myself with the comments made by Commissioner Benjamin. I vote yes.
A favorable report has been adopted as modified on calendar number 4. Citywide, calendar number 5, seeker type 2 rule, CAPA, green fast track, in the matter of a proposed rule change concerning the seeker type 2 rules, City Administrative Procedure Act, CAPA, for the adoption of calendar number 5. Chair Garodnick.
Great, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. I would just like to give a few brief remarks before my vote on this one. As many of you have likely seen, the vacancy rate for available apartments in the city has dropped to 1.41%, which is an eye-opening number. That is the lowest vacancy rate since 1968. Supply is not even close to keeping up with the demand for housing in our city. We need to do all we can to get shovels in the ground and homes built faster for New Yorkers. Green Fast Track will help us do just that. This rule change is a significant step forward in addressing our environmental and housing crises by speeding up approvals and cutting costs for sustainable housing developments. If it goes into effect, Green Fast Track would streamline environmental review for small and medium apartment buildings that are under 250 units and use all electric heating. In looking at over 1,000 environmental reviews over the last decade, city planning staff found that these types of developments consistently show no negative impacts on the environment. By putting these projects on the environmental expressway, we will cut up to $100,000 and 2 years from the pre-certification time for qualified projects, money and time that should be spent building new housing, not navigating needless bureaucracy. With this change, we will meaningfully speed up the review process for proposals that are good for both housing affordability and the climate, while preserving the robust public input process for each eligible project. That is a huge win-win for New Yorkers and one that I am proud to vote in favor of today. I'd like to also express my thanks to all of the Department of City Planning staff involved in getting us to this point, including our planning support, EARD, council, ITD, and InterGov teams. Many of them are here in the room. Special shout outs to Alex Moskovitz and Rain Reel for their hard work on this proposal. Thank you all for the incredible efforts here. With that, I vote.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
As a former director of SECRA, I look at this and try to evaluate the real purpose of NEPA, SECRA, and SECR, which was a disclosure document to let the decision makers know what the potential impacts were of things that they were considering approving. And so in my review of this, I want to make sure that both the decision makers and the public have as much information after this is passed as they do before. The department has assured us that the information that is gathered, for instance, the sign-offs potentially that landmarks may give on archaeologic resources, etc., will be attached to whatever type 2 letter is sent, and that all of those sign-offs will be available to the community boards, to us, and to all of the decision makers in this process. I think that's really important. And I also think we need to look sometime down the road, perhaps 2 years, when we have enough to actually examine whether the whole time frame has really been reduced or whether it's just the time frame that's in the city plan. So I would recommend to the chair that in a year and a half or two, that we do a review of how this has worked and whether it has significantly reduced the time period for these housing projects. That being said, I would also add that in my mind, the key impediment to housing projects going forward is that we have no 421A program. We have no 421B program. We have no J51 program. And we have very few ways to help finance those projects that have been approved. So even the projects that have been approved don't have shovels in the ground by and large. So I say that as a way of just saying that that is not the only impediment to housing being built in the city. With that, I vote aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Excuse me. I just wanted to echo the chair's sentiment on crediting the department on work in this. If you're thinking about being in a housing crisis, we definitely need to be thoughtful on what we can do. We've made it too hard to build housing and we really need it. So there's one other point that I think I just want to make is that these costs, it's both time, but also the costs are actually passed over. So what we're doing here is we're going to save New Yorkers both time and money with limited impact. So with that, I vote.
Commissioner Goodrich.
My main concern
my main concern for me with this proposal is that the number 250 units is actually a lot of units. To put it into context, we have obviously a lot of housing proposals that come before us. Sometimes we have 40 units, 80 units, like we have today. We have a few and then sometimes we have 2,000. But for me, 250 can easily bring 1,000 people to a neighborhood. And under the environmental review, it isn't just about strictly environmental issues like sewage or other factors, it's also quality of life. So people have asked me, for example, about school size. So school size is one, traffic is one. And I think that oftentimes, because we do have a housing supply issue in New York City, that these quality of life issues are minimized, almost sort of disregarded because of the need to build more housing. But at the end of the day, as city planning, our goal is to look at the future. And it is important that we be able to encourage the public to ask questions and to give input. And obviously, part of the environmental review is answering some of those questions. So my concern here, I'm particularly concerned that the proposal includes 250, which is a larger amount than I think it should be. If it was 100, that would be perfect, for example. I'm voting yes, but that is my main reservation that I wanted to know for the record.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
I respectfully vote no. I acknowledge the department's effort to increase and expedite the construction of housing and also the construction of energy efficient buildings in the city. But I believe that we shouldn't expedite housing without explicit affordability requirements, nor a detailed review of the unintended implications of increasing residential density inside the floodplain, given the risk of inundation and severe weather in certain parts of New York City. In this regard, I also want to acknowledge the department's proposal to restrict this type of development within the special coastal risk districts. But given how limited they are, I believe that this is not enough. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Calendar number 5 has been adopted. Borough of the Bronx, calendar numbers 6 and 7, Melrose Concourse NCP, CD3, calendar number 6, C 240174 HAX, calendar number 7, C 240175 PQX, and the matter of applications for a UDAP designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property in an acquisition concerning Melrose Concourse NCP. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 6 and 7, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
I am particularly impressed with this proposal in that it mixes demographic age groups within each building and allows the opportunity of valuable cross-mentoring. So I wholly support this.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes, and I wholeheartedly concur with Commissioner Marin.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
I too agree with the comments statements made by Commissioner Marin. I vote yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 6 and 7. Borough of the Bronx, calendar number 8, CD8, N240228ZCX, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 3111 Henry Hudson Parkway SNAD subdivision for the adoption of calendar number 8. Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Calendar number 8 has been adopted. Borough Brooklyn, calendar number 9, 41 Richard Street, CD6 C230051ZMK, and the matter of an application for a zoning map amendment concerning 41 Richard Street. For a favorable report on calendar number 9, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes.
Oh, Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 9. Borough Brooklyn, calendar numbers 10, 11, 12, and 13. 281 311 Marcus Garvey Boulevard, CD3, calendar number 10, C 230146ZMK, calendar number 11, N 230147ZRK. Calendar number 12, C 230148ZSK. Calendar number 13, C 230152ZSK. And the matter of applications for zoning map, zoning text amendments, and special permits concerning 281-311 Marcus Garvey Boulevard. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 10, 11, 12, and 13, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 10, 11, 12, and 13. For Brooklyn, calendar numbers 14 and 15, 1289 Atlantic Avenue rezoning. CD3, calendar number 14, C200-310 ZMK. Calendar number 15, N200-293 ZRK. And the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 1289 Atlantic Avenue rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 14 and 15, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
No. My vote is no. I've had an issue. I find that I find the larger project of Atlantic Avenue rezoning to be problematic. I do not think that it brings enough affordability to the area. I'm intimately familiar with this area. I grew up near here. And obviously I'm from Brooklyn. And some of the residents' concerns and the tenant organizations that have come to testify against the larger Atlantic Avenue rezoning are correct. Sometimes I wonder if these MIH 30% crumbs of affordability is just gentrification, city-funded gentrification by another name. Because again, as I've said multiple times, when you have income-restricted units and they start at $60,000 or $80,000, that to me is not actual affordability. And so because I have an issue with the larger Atlantic Avenue rezoning, and this is one part of it, which is also only 30%, I'm voting no on this. I think that we should be in this particular area, bringing more affordability and not bringing what may be city-funded gentrification. So I'm voting no.
Commissioner Kermani.
I'm voting yes with deep appreciation for Commissioner.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
I respectfully vote no. I respectfully disagree with the report as it relates to the Brooklyn Borough President's recommendation to designate a special mixed-use district and that's instead. So I would have agreed with them in that would have been a more appropriate transition to encourage light manufacturing in the proposed development, which I also think would have been within the scope of the CPC's review. And finally, I concur with Commissioner Goodrich and the deeper affordability. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Recuse.
Recuse. Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 14 and 15. For Brooklyn, calendar number 16 and 17, 817 Avenue H rezoning, CD14. Calendar number 16, C230323ZMK. Calendar number 17, N230324 ZRK. And the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 817 Avenue H rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 16 and 17, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
I'm voting aye with the hope that the laundromat that is so important to the community and the senior center, which is also important, is able to reach an agreement with the owners so that they can be relocated back into this development, because both of those resources are important to the community. And with the hope that during that interim period, the laundromat in particular is able to find a location to relocate to on a temporary basis so that those services are not lost to the community. I vote aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani,
Yes.
Commissioner Medin,
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio,
Vote yes, and concur with Commissioner Benjamin.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 16 and 17. Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 18, 7 North Moore Street, decast disposition, CD1, C240122 ppm, in the matter of application for disposition of city-owned property concerning 7 North Moore Street, decast disposition. For a favorable report on calendar number 18, Chair Karadnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Medin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 18. For Manhattan, calendar number 19, 1521 West 124th Street, CDs 10 and 11, and 220434 ZRM, and the matter of an application for a zoning text amendment concerning 1521 West 124th Street. For a favorable report on calendar number 19, Chair Karadnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Medin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 19. Borough of Queens, calendar number 20, 9722 Cresthill Place disposition, CD12, C240061 PPQ, and the matter of an application for a disposition of city-owned property concerning 9722 Cresthill Place disposition. For a favorable report on calendar number 20, Chair Karadnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Medin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
No.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 20. Borough of Queens, calendar number 21, 8001 Broadway Commercial Overlay, CD4, C240075 ZMQ, and the matter of an application for a zoning map amendment concerning 8001 Broadway Commercial Overlay. For a favorable report on calendar number 21, Chair Karadnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Medin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 21. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 22, 23, and 24, 177 and 183 Hillside Avenue, CD1, calendar number 22 and 240134 ZCR, calendar number 23 and 240135 ZCR, calendar number 24 and 240136 ZAR, and the matter of applications for the grant of certifications and an authorization concerning 177 and 183 Hillside Avenue. For the adoption of calendar numbers 22, 23, and 24, Chair Karadnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Because the application meets the required findings for the special district according to the zoning resolution and in anticipation of additional review required by other agencies such as the Department of Buildings and the Department of Environmental Protection to ensure appropriate building and site engineering, I accept the department's recommendation for approval of the requested certifications and authorizations, and I vote yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Medin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Calendar numbers 22, 23, and 24 have been adopted. Our last voting item of the day. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 25, 97 Westminster Court, CD2, and 240091 ZCR, and the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 97 Westminster Court for the adoption of calendar number 25. Chair Karadnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Doak.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Medin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad?
Yes.
Calendar number 25 has been adopted. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 12.
Fantastic. A lot of voting. Thank you, everybody. The 25 calendar items this morning. For public hearings, we're going to invite members of the public to testify on the 2 items that we have up for today. We ask those who are joining us to limit their comments to 3 minutes, but we'll see who comes to join us here today. So, Madam Secretary, go ahead.
Borough Brooklyn, calendar number 26, 850 3rd Avenue DOF site selection and acquisition. CD7 C240090 PCK, public hearing and the matter of an application for a site selection and acquisition concerning 850 3rd Avenue, Department of Finance site selection and acquisition.
Fantastic. Well, we have a number of people signed up to testify here. I believe they are all affiliated with the applicant team. They are Aaron Werner, George Donahue, John Mulvey, Jacqueline James, Chris Grove, and Sheila Williams from AKRF and various city agencies, including the Department of Finance and DCAS. Madam Secretary, I think we're going to pull them up on Zoom, and then when they are settled and ready, we can go ahead and get started.
Aaron, it says you're unmuted in Zoom. You should be able to begin.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
And
great. Should I get started?
Please.
Thank you. So good morning. My name is Aaron Werner. I'm with consulting firm AKRF. I'll be presenting this application for you today on behalf of the co-applicants, the city's Department of Finance, DOF, and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, or DCAS. Next slide, please. This is an application for a site selection and acquisition action jointly sought by DOF and DCAS to facilitate approximately 31,900 square feet of active storage space for DOF, as well as 750 square feet of space on an adjacent parking lot at 850 3rd Avenue, Brooklyn Community District 7. Next slide. The project site is located at 850 3rd Avenue in the Sunset Park neighborhood. It's bounded by 2nd Avenue to the west, 3rd Avenue and the Gowanus Expressway to the east, 30th Street to the north, and 32nd Street to the south. Block 671, Lot 1 contains an 8-story building known as Liberty Brooklyn with approximately 1.1 million square feet of floor area, including light manufacturing, retail, and commercial office space. Block 675, Lot 10 contains the building's adjacent surface parking lot. Next slide. So this photo looks north from the parking lot towards the Liberty Brooklyn building. Next slide. DOF currently maintains 2 operational storage facilities in Sunset Park. One is located in Industry City, which the city has leased since 1997. The other is on the 5th floor of 850 3rd Avenue, which is currently on a short-term license agreement with the property owner. This application will permit the short-term license agreement to become a long-term lease. In addition to complying with IRS requirements for sensitive documents, DOF and DCAS have determined that long-term use of the space at 850 3rd Avenue is necessary because it provides a dedicated and secure loading area, an elevator, and an improved layout compared to the Industry City location. Next slide. The proposed project would facilitate the acquisition of approximately 31,900 square feet of space on the 5th floor of 850 3rd Avenue, as well as the acquisition of approximately 750 square feet on the adjacent parking lot to be used for 2 parking spaces with electric chargers reserved for DOF vehicles. The space at 850 3rd Avenue would primarily be used for active storage of DOF records and a workshop for furniture refurbishment, such as chairs and desks, used at various DOF facilities across the city. Next slide. Here are some photos of the space currently in use through the short-term license agreement. This first photo is the main vestibule receiving area with secured entrances and a dedicated elevator. Next slide. Pictured here is the furniture refurbishment shop, which is approximately 600 square feet in size. Next slide. Here you can see the main open area containing storage and warehouse space for office furniture and other equipment. Next slide. Lastly, this is the separate room dedicated to secure storage of sensitive files and records. Next slide. So with that, I'll leave up this summary slide, and I am joined today by representatives from DOF and DCAS, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. We can start with questions from Commissioner Benjamin.
Thank you very much for being here. My first question is, and it's actually a question for another former commissioner here, doesn't DCAS do furniture refurbishment? Don't you retire your old furniture to DCAS?
Not when I was running.
So every agency is responsible for their own furniture retirement or refurbishment? Maybe.
There's a warehouse. I mean, there's a central warehouse. There was a central warehouse. Now, that was run by us, but every agency had their own responsibility to get furniture from their location warehouse.
Right. I was just wondering why Department of Finance would need their own furniture refurbishment. And the city, I don't know who I'm talking to. Maybe that gentleman. Back.
Department of Finance, yes, or
okay.
Okay. Okay. The Department of Finance refurbishes and reuses all of our wood furniture on a regular basis, getting us to a great amount of savings. Rather than buying new furniture, we refurbish it, we change it, we'll change the color. And so rather than buying new, we take what we have and make it like new and make it better. And we do this for all of our locations. As you know, there is a concern of buying a lot of furniture, and this allows us to maintain our facilities without spending an exorbitant amount of money on new furniture unless absolutely required.
So this is only for wooden furniture? It's not for chairs or other types of furniture? What happens with those?
It can be for wooden furniture. It can be for Herman Miller panels. We've been known to, if we have to do a change in a layout, we have been known to cut a panel down to size and then stretch out the fabric and make it fit so that we don't have to buy a new panel. During COVID, we did all of our own health panel screenings that went on top of the Herman Miller. We cut them and we handled those ourselves within the workshop. So we do a lot of things on hand with a small crew that is able to adapt our furniture as needed.
And what percentage of the space is going to be used for that particular activity?
It's about 600 square feet of space that's used for that. So if we are redesigning an area and we need somebody to come in and spray paint, then that's the area that's being used.
Right, this is the room in the upper left corner of the slide here that's in blue. It's a small space on the floor plan.
There's a spray booth in there?
It's not a spray booth, but when we refurbish, that's the area where we would do any of our furniture repairs or refurbishment.
Thank you for that. And my second question is just active storage. We have a policy that we've been requiring a special permit for storage for private entities who want to build storage. So I take a real look at this as an activity that would have required a special permit potentially. Why is it that this is appropriate for storage in a M3 area where we've been encouraging manufacturing? I know it's not that big, but it's a concern for me.
I think we did listen to some of the comments from the pre-hearing the other day, and EDC did provide a letter with some answers about this site and the other uses in the building. we'll be happy to have EDC maybe weigh in on that as well. But there are representatives from DCAS also that maybe can answer a question about this space and why it works good for them and DOF.
Okay, the letter that EDC sent says that Liberty View is uniquely positioned to welcome both industrial and commercial join the growing community of Sunset Park. But here we have a building that we had, a location that we have designated to try for manufacturers to occupy these spaces. And being in this manufacturing zone and in an area that we designated, I'm just curious why storage is the activity, and that's not really addressed in this letter. But I understand that EDC may be better posed to answer that question.
Sure, we can follow up with EDC and they can provide some supplemental info, including the tenancy of the building and different uses.
Thank you.
Before I go to Commissioner Osorio, I really just a question for DCAS about the refurbishment of city furniture, because it seems to be that feels unique to me, although I don't know that one agency, Department of Finance, would be taking such efforts to refurbish its own furniture. I don't know if there are similar programs across agencies, and if we're reserving roughly 600 square feet per city agency for that purpose. DCAS, can you give us any insight on that?
Hi, this is Chris Crow from DCAS. I'm a city planner, but I'm not aware of like a centralized one. I tend to think that each of the agencies do it on their own. But if you'd like, I can, ask our colleagues here at DCAS, but that's my understanding.
Okay, well, please do. I will admit I don't think we do a ton of furniture refurbishing at the Department of City Planning. We tend to wear it down and use it for as long as we possibly can.
People cannibalized the furniture. As soon as someone left or got something new, everybody rushed in and took all the good furniture that was there. That was City of New York for
Maybe
decades.
If there were a little more refurbishing, Commissioner, there might have been. Okay, let me go to Commissioner Osorio. And yes, DCAS, if you don't mind, Chris, please, if you could just let us know what the context is of this, just so we understand. Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation and thanks for acknowledging the questions from the session. I have two follow-ups. The first one is actually a follow-up for Benjamin's question about the special permit for warehouse. Could you answer the question?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you very well.
Just speaking.
Okay. Yeah, no, my question is whether you can address the question from Commissioner Benjamin about why this didn't require a special permit for warehousing.
I don't have the answer for that. As far as I know, the entire time we worked on this, it was the acquisition selection process as advised by DCP staff. You can certainly follow up.
I can help. The special permit requirement is only for IBCs. That's the answer. This isn't not requires.
This is outside of the.
I believe it is. So ask the applicant just to confirm.
Okay, because I know that it's within the.
Can applicant, can you confirm that this is outside of the land use question?
Can you repeat the question? It was just hard to hear you.
I want to confirm that this building at 850 3rd Avenue is outside of the IBZ industrial.
I believe it might be in the IBZ. We'll get back to you about that. I do know that the use is permitted in the CO of the building. It's also permitted in the zoning district that this is in. But we can certainly follow up.
The question then would become, is the parameter of the special permit requirement for a standalone self-storage facility in contrast to, say, 30,000 square feet of storage, what's the distinction here? How should the commission, if you don't mind, my just jumping in to ask that? That's the question that I think Commissioner Benjamin and Commissioner Story are getting at. So if you want to take a crack at that here, or do you want to do that as a follow-up?
We'll follow up.
Commissioner, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much also for acknowledging and for facilitating. Given what EC has mentioned in the letter in terms of the city's policy, land use policy and land use vision, and specifically of this part of the working waterfront, I'm wondering if you can share with us, how do you respond to what some of us, or at least I speak for myself, to the global land conflict. So, yes, a privately owned building where the deed restriction allows for this type of use, yet, so like a larger vision for a working waterfront that should be, as Commissioner Benjamin mentioned, prioritizing or aligning all city intervention to replacing industrial manufacturing. What is your response to the letter that you shared with us?
It's hard to hear some of that, but I think you're asking about the waterfront uses and the goals of the area. We, again, EDC did have listened to this question on the pre-hearing the other day, and they did provide a response to that. We also did the WRP for city planning, waterfront and open space division as part of the work we did on the seeker side and the land use application, and that was approved by that office.
Understood. If I may,
just difficult to hear. I have headphones on to it. I still can't really hear.
I think we all are having a hard time. It's not just you, Aaron.
Well, let me again apologize to those of you who are listening to us out in the world for our technical difficulties today. I'm going to ask Commissioner Osorio just to repeat his question a little louder so you can hear it. And if you have trouble, just let us know, and we'll make sure that.
Happy to repeat. My question is, how does your proposal align with the EDC's land use vision for this part of the working waterfront?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. Unfortunately, EDC was unable to attend today's public hearing. We will forward your question back to EDC for response, since they're the more appropriate agency to answer this question.
No, but my question is not for EDC. I mean, we got the letter from EDC. My question is for DCAS. How does your proposal relate to EDC's vision for this part of the city?
George, do you have any
Is the question in regard to planning, the waterfront related planning related to us? Because it's hard to hear the question.
I'm sorry. We're going to repeat. If you couldn't hear the question, we're going to try one more time, and we'll follow up. Go ahead, Juan. One more time.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to repeat. My question is, how does how does your proposal relate to the EDC vision stated in the letter regarding this part of the working waterfront? Can you hear me okay?
I could hear you. I'm in leasing. That's more of a planning question. I think that we'd have to follow up with EDC.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you. I appreciate any insight that you can respond to that. And then just one final question regarding leasing. Can you expand a little bit on the criteria that was used to identify the alternative properties that were considered? We got the list. Thank you so much for that. And we got the response on why they didn't qualify. But I'm just curious if you can share a little bit about how were those options identified. What is the criteria for that?
Sure, I'd love to answer that question. So, the city is very concerned about cost savings and space consolidating. It's very important. So in this particular case, we looked at some other sites, about 7 other sites, in which the rent was $24 per square foot and higher than that. Here, we're under $20, actually closer to $18 per square foot, which is a very good savings. And the other requirements for finding the site for this lease is it does have the EV chargers, It's much more efficient in its floor plan than where we are. The security is very good because this is a storage of important records that we have. We did downsize a little bit. I think the freight elevators, yes, the freight elevators are accessible 24 hours, 7 days a week. We can operate it ourselves, this important storage material. So it hit all the right requirements that we needed, especially the cost savings. So that was a decision made by us.
Yeah, if you go to slide 5, it shows you the criteria that DOF needed. And George, if I'm correct, this is the site that met all of all the criteria that DOF needed for the refurbishment and for the active storage, if that's correct.
Yes, just saying it again, yes, and that it was a lot less in regard to the rent.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I have a quick follow-up question. So I also understand, as DCAS has mentioned in the past, that because we're in an active negotiation of the lease, there may be information that you can't share with us. But I'm very curious to understanding what are some of the canons that you've been comparing in this regard. So it strikes me that given the amount of vacancy that we are seeing right now in office space, and given sort of like the both uses, I'm a little sort of concerned about the cost benefit analysis that would actually sort of like hinder the potential economic development associated with economic development in this building associated with industrial and manufacturing. In other words, can you share a little bit sort of like any baseline information that you can share with us in terms of, how can this compete with empty office space in other parts of the city that I would think would qualify in terms of the requirements that you showed?
Right. So whenever you're looking for a site for any of the almost 50 agencies, you have quite a few things you have to consider. What is the timing? What is the geography? And the reasons that we need the site and the cost savings. So there are very few sites that will charge under $20 a square foot. So you focus in on those entities that are operationally good, that there's no negativity in the important things, and we still can pay a low cost savings. So for example, we're not saying that let's save a lot of money and the important things are subordinate. It's not that way. We have timing. What space is available that has the timing? Is it all on one floor where it's operational? Is the geography good for us? So there are a lot of things. That's why it takes us quite a while, to find a site, go through all these components, and then make a decision. So that's how we do it.
And it also included, like for this particular site, right, George? I mean, this facility provided electrical charging stations, the 24/7 security and access to the freight elevators. This met the criteria that DOF specifically had asked for, correct?
That's right. Yep. You're repeating what I said. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rampersad.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of questions with regards to this active storage, and I understand it may be sensitive material. Is the space large enough? If you could just walk me through the operation, how much storage, when you say active, are you bringing documents from each borough to this location? Are you guys planning to go digital? How long does that stuff stay in storage? Is this for a lifetime?
Hi, my name is Jacqueline. The active storage means that staff will be able to have access to the facilities 24/7. The sensitive information some of them do have retention record schedule, so they do get destroyed after a certain time. We are by law required to protect certain documentation in a secure manner that must meet federal standards, and so that's allowing us to do that in that space. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, general idea. And with regards to the furniture space, how many people are dedicated to repair furniture, out of curiosity?
I didn't quite hear the question.
How much staff is dedicated to the furniture repair?
We have about a rotating staff, about 8 individuals who will come and go within that space on any given day or on the weekends if necessary.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And commissioners, I'll just throw a quick reminder, please speak as loudly as you can so that they can. Any other questions on this one? Okay. Great. Well, thank you to the applicant team. I do not see members of the public wishing to testify on this item. So we will close the hearing on calendar number 26. And Madam Secretary, let's move on to next item.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 27, Times Square Major Concession, CD5, C240088 MCM, public hearing, and the matter of an application for a major concession concerning Times Square Major Concession.
Great. Well, thank you. We're happy to welcome an applicant team that includes Emily Weidenhoff, Ellen Goldstein, Tom Harris, and Karen Peterson. All of you who are very familiar to most of us, so we look forward to hearing from you and welcome you here to the City Planning Commission. So, thank you. Whenever you're ready, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, great.
Okay. Hi, thank you. I'll be presenting the Times Square Major Concession today to the City Planning Commission. Just to give an overview, the applicant is the New York City Department of Transportation. Our plaza partner is Times Square Alliance. We are applying for a major concession. This proposed expansion of the concession exceeds 42,000 square feet. Therefore, we are going through the ULO process. This location is in Community Board 5 in Manhattan. Surrounding land use. The site for the proposed expansion, you can see there in the tan color with the black outline. It's located on Broadway between 41st and 53rd Streets and on 7th Avenue between 42nd and 47th Street. It's predominantly a commercial district, C6-7, with a special Midtown District theater subdistrict. The concession area and purpose. The existing concession area you can see in the left diagram is blue. That originally was a plaza SIP and has since been capitally constructed in permanent materials. It currently is 38,063 square feet. We are proposing to add additional concession area, which is in red, at the total of 214,293 square feet. And then you can see in the diagram on the right, which is green, that captures the total concession area, which is the combination of the red and blue, and that totals 252,356 square feet. With this expansion, this will align the concession area with the actual existing pedestrian plazas in Times Square. This provides for consistent operation and management through the proposed major concession. This will increase public space amenities, which will bring positive activation to the proposed additional concession area. And this also allows space for additional revenue generating opportunities, which in turn help to fund maintenance obligations for the proposed additional concession areas.
This expanded concession area really future-proofs the corridor to align with our larger Broadway vision plan, which is a multi-year effort to further pedestrianize and place cyclist priority along the Broadway corridor from Union Square to Columbus Circle. This effort is active and ongoing, and so we are continuing to deliver design benefits through shared streets, additional public space, more space and amenities for cyclists along the Broadway corridor, and that plan continues up as we get towards 53rd Street, which is the northern limit of the bid. Here is a plan that shows proposed changes to this northern tail of the Broadway corridor from 47th to 53rd Streets. The existing corridor has plazas and a bike lane, and we are continuing to reshape that with additional space for pedestrian through shared streets. We presented this conceptual plan to Community Board 5 back in April of 2021, and we have implemented the blocks of 48th to 50th Streets and are continuing to work on plans to implement these additional shared street designs moving forward. This is zooming in and looking at in greater detail at one of these blocks and how it's designed and how a future concession might be laid out. You can see the shared street design with the chicane. There is additional pedestrian space for circulation. We are narrowing crossing distances, making safer pedestrian conditions. We're also adding space for city bike and bike share, and there is an opportunity to add additional small scale concession that can have public flexible seating as part of it. DOT does have a standard plaza kiosk, which is approved by the Public Design Commission, and something that is a tool to deliver small scale local contextual concessions in our plazas across the city. Also want to acknowledge that the Times Square concession fits within the larger ecosystem of our public space concessions that we have at DOT have been evolving over many years, really starting with the launch of the Plaza program back in 2008, with the goal of providing positive, active programming that can support our public spaces, be relevant and contextual, and support brick and mortar and other local economic opportunities. And what the concession agreement overall does is provide 3 ways for our plaza partners to generate revenue that all must go back into the management and maintenance of the public space. So the first, as we've showed pictures, is the sub-concession model. That's markets, kiosks, things like that. The other 2 revenue generating opportunities are through commercial event fees. If there is an event that has advertising and a strong commercial layer to it, CECM and SAPO collects a fee as part of that event, but also our plaza partners are able to collect a fee, and that fee is directly linked to the sanitation and management services that it takes to both set up and prepare as well as clean up for those events. The other opportunity is for limited sponsorship. This is small scale, more subtle branding opportunities as a way to, again, promote public amenities in public spaces like tables and chairs, plantings, but also a way for the plaza partner to bring in revenue to help with the ongoing management and maintenance of the space. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tom Harris of the Times Square Alliance.
Thank you very much, Emily. Thanks to the Commission and the Commissioners for hearing us and considering this today. The Times Square Alliance, since 2009, the institution of the Plaza program, has shared in DOT's vision, and we have been the maintenance partner. As the program has expanded, we have been expanding our maintenance obligations, and we've done this without a formal agreement. In many respects, this issue proceeding codifies what we have been doing. Much has been said about concessions and revenue, but the truth is, over the time of us managing, we have spent about $45 million in stakeholders resources and only received about 22 million in revenue. So this isn't about revenue. This is about a vision for the space. We're not for profit. We exist to make Times Square clean, safe, and for all. And as I said, we share in DOT's vision, and this goes to help us improve the neighborhood more. We will get a little bit more revenue, maybe between 47 and 48 for city permitted events, but we do not see this as a revenue opportunity per se, more as codifying the existing agreements that we have and what we have been doing. So thank you very much.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, and we appreciate your being here. I'm going to start with a couple of questions, and then I'm going to go to Commissioner Goodrich. So first off, obviously there's always a concern about commercialization of public spaces. This is a big territory, and you know, we all know the Times Square Alliance is great work, but tell us why the public shouldn't be concerned about the size and scale of this level of an expansion. I guess really a DOT question.
Sure, and a great question. So I think, as Tom reiterated, for us, this larger expanded area represents an area that any revenue generated can go back into maintain. So it's really about defining the overall maintenance area. DOT does a lot in partnership with our bid partners, as well as our colleagues at CECM and SAFO, to set expectations, to really work to balance the role of public space. And so in many cases, we have robust conversations also with the community board about a balance of events and how do we make sure that these public spaces continue to be open and free for pedestrian circulation and cyclists. How do we make sure there is not an over programming of these spaces? So a lot of what we work on with our colleagues and partners is to kind of balance out the commercial or revenue generating activity with the overall space.
And each of those changes, any specific concession, whether it's a short-term or long-term, goes as an individual negotiated arrangement between the Times Square Alliance and the Department of Transportation. Is that correct?
Everything that the Alliance does goes through the transportation. We review, it goes through a public process, and as part of their agreement, they are also responsible for providing financial statements on a basis. So it's also something that they provide full transparency of this.
Great.
Can I add to that?
Tom. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much, Chair. Nobody cares more about Times Square than the Times Square Alliance. People may care as much, but I don't think anyone cares more than us. So our concerns are your concerns. We exist to make the neighborhood better for all, and we would never put in any concession that would compete against our businesses. Over the last 3 years since I've taken over, we've actually reduced the number of concessions in the plaza from 13 to about 4 now, and one of those is a not-for-profit run by Fountain House. So we share in your concerns, and we are focused on that as well.
Good, I appreciate that. And just for our benefit, the short-term versus the long-term concession. I know the short-term is less than 29 days. Long-term can be up to what?
A couple of years.
Well, yeah.
Is there a limit? Is there a limit?
It will ultimately come down to the term of our agreement, but we look. It would be under 20 years, and more typically, our terms are 10 years total. Typically, a 5-year initial term with 2 or 3 2-year renewals following. Again, it's something that we really work with the partner and right size the terms for the type of entity they're trying to attract. And in many cases, we try to make sure that if it's something new that we're testing out, maybe it's a shorter term. So it's again variable, but
great. and you all know this has been a long-serving challenge and issue. Something that I very much care about is the flow of pedestrians through Times Square, and finding pathways and keeping clearances. I know that is also very much a priority of DOT and the Times Square Alliance. So I'm just going to say it out loud here because I feel like I would remiss if I didn't, but I know that you all shared that. Let me go to Commissioner Goodrich and then Commissioner.
Okay. Does this include at all? Because I saw a picture with the bike lane.
Yes.
Yeah, because I bike every day, and I hate Times Square because it has a bike lane, but it's incredibly dangerous. Like after it, it's not it's a poor enough bike lane, but the way that it is, the pedestrians are right there, so they're always like an accident, and I'm wondering if it's also, improving that bike lane.
Yeah, so the bow tie portion of Times Square, which is 42nd to 47th Street, that's where we permanently built out the bike lane. It's semi-raised, and there were a lot of lessons learned from that kind of early typology, and so there's a lot that we've done since to expand kind of the range of bike lane designs, as well as widen them, which you may see a lot of just based on demand. So for the rest of the corridor, as we continue to design, we're looking to incorporate shared streets, which essentially create more space for cyclists and build in slow speed kind of local access for vehicles. And so that's part of creating a better, safer environment, and ultimately leading towards a more diverse range of cycling, so social cycling, accommodating a lot of the tourists who are using city bike to move along the Broadway corridor. So part of the vision and our continued work is to develop safer and enhanced cycling options along the
Thank you. And my second question is, I think there was, I forgot the name of it, but like open space. There was like traffic for a while. And
Open streets?
Open streets.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Was Times Square part of that too? Right?
So yeah, Times Square ran some open streets, the early stages.
So I think, bouncing off of that question, I think what I really want to hear a little bit more about is the concept and the idea behind this, because when I think of Times Square, it's already busy. But when I think of like, for example, open streets, it's people sitting, it's people connecting. And then when you put in vendors in there, it turns it into something entirely different, where it's not necessarily sitting, it's like you have to be able to keep shopping. It's sort of like putting a whole bunch of vendors in Prospect Park. So but on the other hand, I also feel like, well, people are there anyway, maybe it's more convenient for them to have food, to have all these different things. So I would like to hear more bouncing off of your question about the concept behind it. Like, how do you see the space of Times Square? Do you see it more of an open streets where people are supposed to sit and sort of have a space, because that outer part of Times Square is so busy to kind of just sit and rest for a bit? Or do you see it like it's supposed to be bustling and we're going to contribute to that by providing vendors to put people on the streets?
So that's a really good question, and I'll answer a bit and then turn it over to Tom. So there are a lot of demands on our public realm, and a lot of what we're doing with the Broadway Vision Plan is really trying to balance out all of the different demands and give more space to the majority of users. So particularly in Times Square, there continue to be a tremendous amount of pedestrians. So part of the vision to the north of the bow tie, north of 47th Street, is to create more space for pedestrians to walk, as well as additional pockets of public seating so people can stop and sit. There are, as you know, a lot of office workers there too, so it's not just tourists. And part of the vision, again, for the tail that we call from 47th to 53rd, is creating public spaces that are more complementary to the people, that are working there, smaller scale spaces. They are not like major events and attractions. Again, I think the concession opportunity is threefold. So it is some kind of kiosks and supplementary, vending and sales activity, but it's also the sponsorship and events. So it doesn't mean that something is going to be in that space all of the time. Again, I think that the overall area is really representative of what we know is to be well maintained, and that's how we define it. I'll also say that a lot of the additional space that we're carving is more space for city bike. See a lot of high demand for city bike along the Broadway corridor. So carving out space for a lot of different uses, in addition to necessary loading, deliveries, emergency services, and of course in Times Square, sign trucks overnight. So managing a lot of different flexibility of our.
Thank you, Commissioner Bettman.
Okay, could I just?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. My vision is really not to add much more in terms of concessions. The only block that might be conducive to that is between 47th and 48th Street. And right now there's a fantastic pastry shop that sort of engages the space. So there's no need to add a food option. If you remember pre-plazas, Times Square was a destination place without a place. So the Plaza program actually gave a place for people to sit, enjoy the signs, what I call the greatest free show in the world, which is people watching. And we don't really see any opportunities beyond 48th Street for any concessions. The illustration that they showed of 48th to 49th was actually the outdoor dining for Krispy Kreme. So we're certainly not going to compete against our business. We would look to enhance our businesses. Right now, there have been, in this space that we don't maintain through short-term concessions, there have been a summer market and a holiday market, which is a private person who comes in and does this with no arrangement with the Times Square Alliance. I see activations just like that during the holiday season without any additional things. Also, the SAPO does events in that space, and the Alliance sets up the event, maintains the event, provides security and cleanup for the event, and doesn't get any revenue from that event from the city. So this would be an opportunity for that. So it really isn't adding anything, or that's not my vision, because my board's vision is your vision, a place for people to walk expeditiously and get to the theater, quite honestly. So we're not going to do anything to compete against that.
Mr. Benjamin.
All right, thank you all for the presentation. As an avid theater goer, I have numbers of questions about this program. One, how many years is the concession to Times Square Alliance? What is the period of time for this major concession?
So again, that would be subject to
the FCRC.
Yeah, but to the agreement. So once this moves through ULURP, we would then work with the Alliance to basically come to an agreement for a new concession, and that could be up to 20 years. But again, typically we include renewal periods, which
really I think it's 10 years. I thought that was a major concession, was 10 years with an option to renew for 10. Is that not the standard?
So and maybe this is something we can double check with our concessions team, but my understanding is that it can now be under 20. But again, typically the term is 5 years with multiple renewals, and that gives the city kind of a good moment to step back and assess and see how things are going.
If you could get back to us with the time that's anticipated for this franchise, and I'm assuming that if granted, that any franchise granted by the Times Square Alliance or any concession granted by them would be subject to smaller time periods.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And just to be clear, this is not a franchise.
I understand.
A concession.
But that brings up the question of other kinds of sidewalk uses that are, let's say, sidewalk cafes. If Ellen's wanted to open a sidewalk cafe, would they now go to the Times Square Alliance or would they go to DOT?
So we now, with our new outdoor dining program, no longer sidewalk cafes, that program exists independently, but there is no outdoor dining as part of that program in pedestrian plazas. So part of the coordination would be where the plaza is designated versus where there is the ability for outdoor dining on a sidewalk or roadway.
And if it was within this new area, let's say on 50th Street, if it's in the public plaza, how would an owner go about establishing an outdoor place, should they wish to, for people to frequent their restaurant?
So the current program does not allow the typical outdoor dining pedestrian plazas. That's a layer that we're in discussions about how to advance any component of outdoor dining in the future. As part of our existing plaza concession program, concessionaires like someone who has a kiosk in a plaza is able to set up seating in kind of a cordoned off area, but that seating is still open to the public and subject to all of the rules. So if that concessionaire, for example, gets an SLA license, that license could be subject to a cordoned off area, but it is a collective seating.
So in fact, today, a restaurant not in the public plaza from 47th to 52nd could open or apply for outdoor restaurant status. But in the future, it's not clear because they're in the public plaza that they could do the same.
No, so the public plaza spaces are existing now.
But not from 47th to 52nd.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So what are
I guess it's important to separate kind of the DOT's design of the corridor and how we're advancing the design changes along the corridor with this concession overlay.
Could we go back to the
Great.
Okay,
great. So the existing, so this was a proposal back in 2021. But the spaces that are created along the Broadway corridor, we have expanded pedestrian space. Those are already designated plazas. And a portion of phase 1, which expands some of the pedestrian plaza space, is currently existing. So all of these blocks are part of designated DOT plazas. It's the design that's continuing to be updated and changing. And so as part of the city's outdoor dining program, any area that is a pedestrian plaza is not subject to that outdoor dining program. And that is regardless of the concession.
Just to clarify, I think, so the plazas as plazas exist already pursuant to DOT designation. The application here is to capture those plaza areas in the Times Square concession agreement. But the plazas already exist and would prohibit under the new outdoor dining program, the permanent outdoor dining program, restaurants from having outdoor dining in those plaza spaces already. Nothing that's happening here is creating that prohibition. Right. Today. It's what we're doing is capturing these existing plazas north of the existing area that Times Square currently has under its existing agreement that's expiring, and making it travel north.
Correct. Okay. One of the issues, does this cover signage? This agreement?
So they're, again, separate and apart from the concession, DOT has an agreement that includes all of the maintenance responsibilities and requirements to maintain these plaza spaces, as well as the detailing the requirements for the concession piece itself. So there are parts of the agreement that speak to signage.
For instance, does it cover wayfinding signage? Will there be signage that says the following theaters are this way, or?
We have actually been doing that without an agreement, and we have temporary stand-ups which tell people restaurants and theaters east and west from the blocks. I think we go as far north as our district, but that would be something that we would be looking to do with or without this agreement.
Per DOT's agreement, the way it's set up is that we have a map of the overall area that the bid maintains, and we have an exhibit that outlines all the different elements that they maintain within that area. So in that exhibit, there are things like the wayfinding. It also includes.
Did we see that? That exhibit? Did we get a copy of it?
So we have not. You could see the existing exhibit that's in their current concession agreement. We have not yet negotiated the new concession agreement that's representative of this larger area.
Okay, I'll take what I can get. And one of the big issues in people traversing pedestrian. I'm not a bicyclist. I'm a pedestrian. And I'm here several times a week. One of the big issues is the number of vendors. I'm assuming that this agreement does not cover vendors. And there are vendors, many, many, many vendors on each street that prevent people from crossing the streets versus the avenues, that set up shop and make the pedestrian experience hectic at best. How does this deal with the vendors? And is this a area in which the Alliance will have any role in enforcement, or how will that be handled?
So this,
how is it handled now? How will it be handled?
This agreement is separate and apart from any mobile or food vending rules and regulations. A lot of how
purses, not just food, the guys with purses, the people with branding, merchandise, the T-shirts, the I Love New York, it's all there.
Yes, absolutely. Our colleagues at the Department of Sanitation are enforcing a lot of the vending, both that in unpermitted locations, as well as vendors that don't have permits. And that's something that, again, is separate and apart from this action, but something that we all deal with on a daily basis. A lot of what DOT and the Alliance does in terms of making sure we have clear paths through the space, like those clear paths are defined with the understanding that there is a lot of this kind of extra, often unregulated activity. And so we try to make sure that those areas are clear for pedestrian circulation.
Want to add something?
This is where I try not to get into trouble.
Try hard.
So it's going to be hard. So yeah, you're right. The vending is a challenge. We do not plan on doing any vendor enforcement in Times Square. That is the city's responsibility. And it would be, I would love to talk with you offline about having the city live up to their responsibilities.
I mean, because it seems if you're trying to do food kiosks or other things, that you're directly in competition with vendors who self-select where they want to be and basically stay.
So we actually have a decent relationship with the vendors in Times Square. We wish that they complied by the laws. And quite honestly, we put a hot dog vendor in the plaza and the regular vendor raised their prices. So they were kind of happy about that. So I don't think that, I think people who want to patronize vendors want to patronize vendors. People who want to sit in the plaza, have something from our kiosks, they want to do that as well. So we have not, I have not heard complaints from the one food kiosk that we have about the vendors, and I have not heard complaints from the vendors about the food kiosk that we have. And we are always working to clear up the vending rules. The clearer the line between right and wrong, the easier enforcement is, and the line is completely blurred and there's just confusion now.
Okay, and I'd love to have an offline discussion because the crowds that gather at every corner to try and cross the street around the vendors that are on like 45th Street, on the crosstown streets, usually not on the avenue, although sometimes they grow, make it very difficult.
I would love to have that conversation, and we should all be mindful of bills in the city council right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation and congratulations. It's exciting and it's great to have both of you here. I have one question for the partnership and then the question for the DOT. I appreciate the bullet in the presentation regarding the maximizing opportunities for equity. Particularly, you mentioned the WBNDs, but I'm wondering if you can highlight a little bit, how will those concessions, how will the concession, once, we get into that part of the stage, will maximize opportunities for small businesses in general, but how exactly, besides the fact that there will be a public RFP, will the WMBs actually sort of like be guaranteed some space there, otherwise, having to compete with larger businesses and so.
That's a great question. When the concessionaire came to us about the holiday market, our mandate for them was that they have minority and women-owned businesses. And what we did was there were about 30 of them for this holiday market. And what we did was provided business coaching to them with the little money that we got. And our goal was to take those sub-concessionaires and try to turn that into a business in Times Square. It didn't work, but we did provide coaching to them to try to move them along the way. They have a meeting today with someone who's looking to bring minority-owned businesses into a kiosk program, and they're planning on doing like a Shark Tank type event in Times Square where they attract minority and women-owned businesses. That's going to happen sometime in June. And so it's something that is front of mind for us, and we will look to further that in whatever we do. That's part of our vision, that's part of our core values as an organization.
Thank you. One quick follow-up on that. Is it possible for you to share information on how many of the current sort of like the concessions and so forth are actually MWBs in Times Square? That information we have?
Sure, we have. I'm counting. So we have 1, 2, Fountain House. I'm going to count as it caters to people with mental illness and just provide service and support. But of the 1, 2, 3, of the 4, 2 of them are minority owned, and the other 2 are companies. They're both companies.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And to the extent possible, if in addition to MWBs, you can consider cooperatives, worker-owned cooperatives, that would be very interesting. Any additional information you can share, even in terms of those existing, that would be very useful. My other 2 questions are for you. So again, congratulations, this is exciting. I want to know what is your response to to what the community board and the board president are already acknowledging is has been a very productive conversation, but specifically in terms of pedestrian safety issues. So one is they specifically highlight the visually impaired users who may need special accommodation. And so I'm wondering if you can explain a little bit like what's the status of that conversation, but also if you can share with us data on pedestrian safety incidents, how many crashes, how many sort of like collisions, and between where are the conflicts? Is it, as we've been discussing, between pedestrians and bicycles, or where are the cars, where are the buses? Like in this regard, I'm wondering if you have any data that you can share with us.
Absolutely. So we will get back to you with more specific data. Safety is key to our Vision Zero effort and foundational to everything that we do at the department. A huge impact that the Broadway vision and certainly the plazas in Square have kind of seen is a dramatic reduction in overall vehicle volumes along the corridor. And any place where we can reduce vehicle volumes, where we can slow vehicles, we have seen a major increase in safety benefits. So that continues to be the mission of Broadway. And your first question,
I think that really addresses that. Thank you. I agree with you. It sounds like the urban design interventions that you're suggesting, I think it's going to slow down. Or well, they're already like slowing down traffic, but I just want to understand what are the existing conditions. How many people are suffering from a specific pedestrian traffic incident? I guess the only part that was left was the community board specifically talked about the visually impaired.
Oh yes. Yeah. Thank you. So DOT has done a lot of work over the years, particularly with communities with visual impairments, even kind of more specifically around Flatiron, where there is a need for the visually impaired on the street. So we have had a lot of conversations about updating overall designs to make sure that our spaces are both kind of fully compliant with ADA, which can be a challenge when we're working particularly with gravel spaces. So you'll see, if you go through our Flatiron plazas, you'll see some detectable warning strips in some of these paint and gravel spaces. Those don't last very well, so we are very actively in conversation with our engineers and others about a more solution, and that's something we regularly engage with through our accessibility coordinator at DOT and have regular check-ins with the larger advocate community around these critical public accessibility issues.
So before the record, the community board can rest assured that that's going to be addressed.
Yes, that is like very active.
Just to add to that, the Alliance last year hired an accessibility consultant with the police and with the city. So we're looking at all of our events, all of our spaces, to try to make them more accessible. We spoke with him after the community board's comments, and we were going to go through the area with him and make whatever, and talk to DOT and make sure that any of his recommendations were addressed.
Thank you. And I have one last follow-up question for you. So, I was through your presentation, and as I was reading the materials, I was looking for clues on whether DOT had picked up on PCP's recently published principles of good urban design. And so I think that would be a good addition to your presentations in terms of responding to what extent and how exactly are you, connecting to that. But specifically, I wanted to touch on the permeability of the corridor. So in DP's maps, we see that between 43rd, 45th, maybe sort of like slightly south of the area that we're discussing right now, there's severe stormwater flooding, potentially, as we project sea level rise and so forth. And I have to say that it's more on the side streets than on Broadway itself. But I'm wondering, the images that you showed, the maps that you showed, look like very little permeability besides the planters. It sounds like there is very little permeability in general. And so I'm wondering, first, what is the plan to adapt to what's projected to be additional stormwater flooding, and who will be responsible for that?
Great question. So we work on all of our projects closely with PPP and the Department of Design and Construction, or PDC. And it really is kind of at that capital stage that we're able to think about and build robust stormwater management details. So when we're just doing the Broadway projects on the street, which are rapid response type projects, it really is just the planters that minimally add a little more permeability, but it really is in the capital and the design corridor that allows us to get those treatments. This portion of Broadway is not funded for a capital project. So there are plans on the books for that
I highly encourage you to prioritize that because the maps are not looking very good. Now to commend like the intervention, this is according to the City Council's speed equity analysis. This has some of the areas that are below an average surface temperature, which means what I equate that the planters may not be absorbing any water, but they're providing shade as well as the umbrellas of the you. And I highly encourage you to sort of like balance that with how much water we can absorb there, because this is going to flood. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Commissioner Gold.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to jump back to discussion of for. So I guess one of the things that's not going clear to me, here, is aside from creating the ability for the Alliance to be able to rent the space or the concession space, what else are we actually changing, right? So I mean, I guess it's not clear. I think the comment there was we're not actually changing anything other than giving some extra space. And I guess we're looking at the everything that's in the presentations. That's not clear. Are we closing streets? Are we reducing the sizes of the streets? So we're genuinely, I think we're not just making basically putting the space on the watch of the Alliance. Is it really that simple?
So separate and apart from this ruler land action, DOT is engaged in a multi-year planning and design for the vision plan. And that is the effort that is continuously reshaping streets and changing the design. So the overall area that is in the concession, it reflects our future build of the Broadway vision plan. So you will notice that we have full plaza blocks in the concession area. And I don't know if we want to go back to slide 3, I think is the best. Yeah. But
actually, can we go back to slide 3?
Current, for example, Broadway. Next slide 4. This one. Yes, thank you. So, for example, the block of Broadway between 41st and 42nd Street, in the overall area, we are showing this as fully pedestrian. It's another block of Broadway that is used to vehicles. Currently, this block of Broadway is open, but it is in our plan and something we've been talking about with the community board, with stakeholders, and our goal is to eventually design this block. So the overlap and where these two efforts come together is to say that this overall concession area is what we envision as the maximum public realm space as we continue to roll out our Broadway vision plan.
Yeah, so I guess another way to think about it then is when you get to that point, advance to that point, perhaps the space that may or may not be being lost to pedestrians at this point gets recaptured. It's just being taken perhaps some vehicles. So in other words, net will still be space.
Yes, and overall, this is a huge gain for customers.
One other question, maybe fair one for your comment, but as I think about what's happened a little bit to the south in some of the pedestrian plazas, there's been a lot of both noise and activity. I would say there's some security needs there, right? Basically, there are a lot of the street areas where there are a lot of people that are now living. Does that get encapsulated, if you will, into sort of the rents will provide you, will allow you to increase your security budgets, or is that a PP thing, or is that a combination?
Well, I would say that this whole thing is a loss. So there really is no revenue, but we do this because of our shared vision for the space. But we work very closely with the police department to make sure that Times Square is as safe as possible. We also work with legislators to change laws if possible. Right now we have 137 person police force from the NYPD that is assigned to Times Square. They just added 27 police officers to the theater district. We work very closely with the police department to make sure that a lot of the quality of life issues are addressed. As far as the unhoused individuals, we have a Community First program where we provide service and support to those in need on the Alliance's dime. We have partnerships with Breaking Ground Fountain House. We deploy peer navigators. We've reduced the street homelessness in Times Square from 31 to 10. We have challenges with the mental ill, but we're working with Breaking Ground. But we try to really hyper focus on these issues. As we know, any problem in Times Square is magnified worldwide, and we try to address the problems that happen there, and we're going to continue to do that.
Perfect. You definitely thought about this.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Okay, we're going to finish with Commissioner Osorio. Final questions?
Thank you so much, Chair. A quick question that I meant to raise for both, actually. What are the public bathroom requirements that we should expect to have in this type of scenario?
Okay, so look, I would nothing would please me more than to have some sort of a public bathroom in Times Square. Our public safety officers have lists of any of the bathrooms that are both public and businesses that allow people to use them. We actually provide security for bathroom kiosks in the Times Square subway station that's managed by Boston Properties. We have explored an outdoor bathroom. Now, without getting too much into the weeds on this, we can't have plumbing, we can't have water, so it would have to be like an upscale porta potty. We have a price from a vendor. We're currently looking for sponsorship for that. It's expensive. It costs us $700,000 a year to maintain four for the year in Times Square. So if you know of any sponsors willing, that we are all ears. Sharman, Cottonelle, and Scott are on the hook. So we're trying to get that so that we can have this amenity for the people who are in Times Square.
You're not currently required.
No.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that, we thank you very much for your presentation today, and we have no members of the public wishing to testify on this item. So there's that. We will close the hearing unless you, Madam Secretary, tell me that we should be keeping this and the other hearing open. Go ahead.
Yes, due to a technical issue with the notice, we're actually going to continue this hearing to the April 3rd public meeting, as well as 853rd Avenue DOF site selection and acquisition. Both hearings will be continued to the April 3rd meeting, where we'll welcome new testimony. We will allow today's speakers to testify again, but we'll welcome any new speakers on April 3rd for both items.
Great, so we will continue the hearing on both. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Do we have any other business before us today, however?
No, Chair Grodnick, we do not have any other business for the commission, but for those of you who were unable to or did not wish to speak today, you can submit written testimony online by selecting this hearing on the NYC Gate portal through the upcoming meetings page, through DCP's website, or by mailing your comments to City Planning Commission, Calendar Information Office, 120 Broadway, New York, 10271, 31st floor.
Great. And with that, with appreciation to the commission and to our applicants today, we are now adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.